could do something remarkable so people can really notice that and talk about that, because if we want more referrals, we need to be referable. So making things differently will give people a reason to talk about us. And I would say that the first step is just to really identify where in the process of working with your clients can you surprise them. I always make the analogy that instead of just trying to work on a customer experience, huge strategy that will take a lot of time, it's like trying to make deep surgery. Instead of that, I would say try acupuncture. Just focusing on those specific things that will make a difference for people. And as you were saying before, usually the things that our customers appreciate most about us are not the big things, but those small details, following up on something, just asking them how they are, smiling, a lot of things that might not be those huge elements marketing-wise, but definitely will make a difference because they are not common. But definitely, those are the small things that we care the most, feeling appreciated. And they're very powerful. And as we were discussing before the interview, affordable. So any small business can do them and really take advantage of that.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Value Whispering podcast. I'm your host, Melitta Campbell, business coach, value whisperer, and advocate for introverted female entrepreneurs and experts who want to create a business that's aligned, meaningful, and impactful. Now, over the summer here on the show, I've been hosting the Brilliant Business Book Festival, and my original intention was to build up to the big launch of my book, The Art of Value Whispering, but that has been delayed a little bit. However, in the meantime, I have co-authored a book called Connect, Lead, Succeed. And today's guest is one of the co-authors of that project. We co-authored the marketing chapter together. And while I describe it as a book, it's actually a conference in a book. It's quite a unique concept, and it brought together 12 authors. I think about 200 people applied to be part of this, and they chose the 12 they felt would have the most impact and would work best as a conference. So each talk builds on the talk before, and it's beautifully done. And the way each section is introduced, each speaker is introduced, it really feels like an experience. So I can highly recommend that you go out and get a copy. I believe if you get it on Kindle, it's still on special offer right now. Although personally, I think it's the kind of book you want in hard copy. So my guest today is David Gómez, and his expertise is all around pricing and differentiation, making sure that small businesses don't purely compete on price so they can be profitable and enjoy a meaningful business over the long term. So this conversation today is the perfect end for our business book festival. But before we dive into that, I do want to invite you to join me for Momentum Month. This is a new program I am running in October. The live session starts at the end of October, but there's content for you to work on beforehand to help you understand what works for you when it comes to being your most confident, aligned, and productive self and creating momentum in your business. And the momentum isn't about the big things you do, it's about the small things you do to a high standard consistently. And that's what we're looking at. What are those small things that are going to drive you towards your goals, and how can you get there smoothly and joyfully throughout November? It's going to give your business a wonderful kickstart and help you to not just get more momentum in your business and build growth, but to gain a greater appreciation of how you can drive success in a way that's aligned with your skills, your values, your vision, and creates that meaningful impact for your clients and in the marketplace. So I'd love to invite you to find out more about that. Go along to melittacampbell.com/momentum and you'll find all the details, and you can register directly from there as well. Places are limited because I want this to be an intimate, meaningful experience for all those involved. So if this sounds like just what you need right now, then do jump in and be part of that. I really hope to see you there. Meantime, here's David. So hi, David. It's great to have you with us on the show today.
Hi, Melitta. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And you're not just an author, you are also my co-author. So I thought this is a perfect interview to end the book festival with. So thank you for saying yes. And your big topic is all about pricing, differentiation, how businesses can stand out and be profitable for the right reasons. So I'm really excited to dive into that. And we co-authored the book Connect, Lead, Succeed, which was a collection of 12 speakers, each giving a talk, but within a book. It's a conference within a book, which is a whole new concept. And I don't know how you felt about the end result, but when I saw it, I was so impressed. It really feels like an amazing conference in a book.
Yeah, yeah. The introduction of each speaker writer, welcome to the stage.
Yeah, it's really written like a conference. So yeah,
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
been really impressed and
yeah,
and
yeah. Very
like
nice.
honored to be part of it. And we share the two chapters in the marketing section. Mine is obviously about value whispering, and yours is all about pricing, which we haven't talked about on the show for quite some time. And it's always a topic that we need to revisit on a regular basis as business owners to make sure our pricing strategy is up to date. And I love your focus on it's not just the price, it's the value. But before we dive into all of that, could you share a little bit of your background with the listeners? How did you come to be on this crusade to help businesses to be more profitable?
Uh, I started working in the corporate world for 15 years, different multinational companies in sales or marketing positions, basically. And when you're in sales, number one objection you get is price, or everything related to that. I don't have the budget, or I don't need it. I can find it somewhere else at a lower price, or always price is quite an issue. And then in 2009, I just left the corporate world and started my own company 16 years ago. And especially, I started focusing on small businesses, actually, really trying to understand what were those key challenges they were facing. And being an entrepreneur myself and my family, because as in many families, my grandmother used to bake cakes. My auntie and everyone in my family was having a small business, a family business, let's call it that way. And I always was just, I was witnessing the hard times they were having every month, working harder and not getting enough, not being able to make the ends meet. And always like customers were asking for discounts and better conditions and all kind of requests. And I saw firsthand that it was very difficult for any entrepreneur, business owner, independent professional to really counter attack that, or to really answer and handle that objection, ending usually in lowering the price, which is conceding too much too soon, in my perspective. So at that moment, I just decided that I just wanted to work on that, give them tools so they could really defend their value. So kind of, fight back a little bit in a good way, but just not only saying yes to any request, but explaining why. So I have always said that problem is not that you have a higher price, but that the customer doesn't understand why. I think it's not a matter of pricing, but a matter of value and how the right clients, of course, can understand what you provide. So that was the beginning of my crusade, Melitta, just trying to really represent those that haven't been able to defend their price, because as you know, price is the number one variable that really affects, for better or worse, profitability. And it'll hurt you if you don't handle it carefully. So that's how it all started.
Yeah, I love that story. And it's, as you say, it's so important, especially for small business owners, to be able to defend their pricing because if we lower the price, we don't have that luxury of volume to sustain low margins. So if you're like this huge multinational, you can compete on volume. So it's easier. But for small businesses, we don't have that. And often, as you say, the quality is so much better, the thought, everything that goes into that product or service,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much more to it, but it's quite difficult to communicate that, especially when the service is you. and putting your hand up saying, yeah, I'm amazing, by the way.
Yeah,
Pay me
yeah,
lots
yeah,
of
yeah,
money.
yeah.
In our mind, it's hard to do that. It feels a bit weird and awkward. So, what are the ways that we can defend our prices? Are there any specific strategies that you think, okay, these are the sort of top three things to consider?
I would say, Melita, that basically the core of it is being different or having something remarkable that can be the reason why you cost what you do. And if I were going to frame it somehow, it's like asking yourself three questions, because those are the ones that your clients are also asking themselves, which is why you, who cares, and how will they know? Which is why you, meaning why they should buy from you instead of any other option, because there are so many options. So why you? And sometimes we are a little bit romantic as entrepreneurs, and we fall in love with our own ideas and with our own products and services, and we do not recognize that there are others that are also doing a pretty good job, and those are seen by your clients also. So asking yourself, why me instead of others? What do I provide? How can I add value to any specific client will make a difference and will justify somehow why you cost what you do. And there's a methodology that I use usually called the differentiation trinity, which is what do you solve that others don't, that is critical to your client, and here lies your core differentiator. So the first question is why you? The second is who cares? Sounds obvious, but we tend to, market anyone. We're thinking that the more people we reach, the better results we will have, which is not the case. Not everyone is a prospect, even though we would love everyone to be interested in our solution, but not everyone is a prospect. And it comes to the concept of ideal client, which is those that really matter, that really have the problem you solve, and that really appreciate that. And so having that clarity on the kind of client or customer you are attracting will take you into the first question, how will they know? Meaning not only like the vehicles to communicate it, but what are you going to say to them, which is communication, right? Which is actually the value whispering concept, which I love so much. So once you have something that is really remarkable, now that you know who cares about that, now you have the two elements, and then you go and tell them, look, I have this that no one else does, and it's critical to you. So the way you communicate your value, in this case, your differentiator, your uniqueness, will really make it very simple for those that might be interested in what you solve. So basically, to defend the price, the answer is, or to stop competing on price, be different. That's a reason to justify the price you have.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But I have a question because I know a lot of the conversations I have with, particularly with small business owners, they can't see what's remarkable about them and they see themselves as the same as everyone else. So I'll give you an example of like a health coach. They have the same approach to every other health coach. They've taken the same qualifications, they read the same magazines.
Mhm.
How can someone start to find what's remarkable about them? Because I know you know as well as I do, they are remarkable and there is always a point of differentiation. But I was wondering if you have any ways that you help people find that.
Mhm. I would say a couple of things. First, do not look for your differentiation necessarily in the product or service itself, because they tend to do that. And actually, in my experience, Melita, uh, differentiators are not in the product you're selling, but in the surroundings, but in those small things, elements, or the after sale service, the experience you provide, or the experience you have, or your team, or the easy to work with, or so many things. So first, do not look for that only in the product itself, but in the surroundings of your product. And second, ask your customers. They have more clear vision and perspective because they are already paying you. I mean, they are already buying from you. So they are already appreciating something that you are offering that they may not find somewhere else. So asking your clients, and I always recommend businesses, just every time you get a new client, please ask them, why did you choose us? Why did you buy from us? I mean, we were the chosen ones. We were the selected ones. You are now with us. You are paying to us. Why? Because I'm a strong believer that they have options and they maybe considered other options. So why they decided to buy from you? There should be any specific reason, and ask them directly, what makes me different? Since you have been other providers like me, for example, what do you see in me that no one else has? Because it is very hard for us just to see ourselves, as you were saying, and I think it has to be with the self-leadership that you usually talks that I love, which is trusting yourself and your inner forces and your strengths and everything. But it is hard to look inside. So asking your customers, and they will give you a honest response. Also asking them, what do you think should be done that no one is doing? Because that's a great opportunity to find future differentiators, future opportunities, untapped opportunities, something that nobody is working on, not even you. But the fresh perspective of those that are already buying from you and knowing, liking, and trusting you, that's very, very valuable. And also asking them, have you recommended us? What do you say about us? So 2 things. First of all, to look for your key differentiators to justify your price first. Do not look at the product only. Look in the surroundings. And second, ask your customers.
Yeah, amazing advice. And I always ask my clients the same, like, what do you appreciate most about working with me? And why did you choose me? And it's never what I think they're going to say.
Yeah.
And you think,
Yeah, it's
oh,
true.
and it's really nice because then I appreciate, well, the little things. You said the word earlier, and we're going to come to this.
Yeah.
The little things that you do that show other people that they're understood and valued really stand out and make a difference for people. And sometimes we don't notice the things that
Yes.
we do that are so appreciated. So yeah, it's always a surprise when they come back, and you start to see the patterns and appreciate for yourself more the value that you can bring to people. And then you can double down on that, which is wonderful to do.
Absolutely. Actually, Melitta, that's so important that I developed the 50 differentiation argument. This is something I had created, among other things, just letting people know that there are so many ways to differentiate because people cannot see it usually. And actually, your key argument, your differentiator might change from one segment to the other. So you don't have one single argument. I mean, if you are selling B2B or B2C, or the after-sale service could be important for a certain type of customers, but for others don't, or inventory or the portfolio you handle, or whatever the reason you are giving to them. So being open just to really recognize that you may be doing a lot of things pretty well because you try so hard and you really put your heart on it, it'll pay back.
Totally. And you mentioned, and I mentioned, and one of the books that you've written is It's the Little Things. And in my book as well, I touch on that it's these tiny noticeable things that we can do that can make the big difference for people. Those ways that we show that we understand, that we care, that we value them, that they're safe with us. All of these little indicators can make such a big difference. You're looking at it from the sort of customer service point of view and the differentiation. What can you tell us about finding those small things? Because sometimes I guess there's that danger of just doing lots of small things and feeling quite scattered rather than making small things a strategy. What's your take on that?
I will say focus on the main pain points within your customer journey kind of approach. Just mapping every interaction you usually have with your customers and identifying which ones could be improved, or even if they are not pain points, you could do something remarkable so people can really notice that and talk about that, because if we really want more referrals, we need to be refillable. So making things differently will give people a reason to talk about us. And I would say that the first step is just to really identify where in the process of working with your clients can you surprise them. It could be before they become customers, or during the time you are working with them, or even after. There are a lot of touch points that you could really work on. And I always make the analogy that instead of just trying to work on a customer experience huge strategy that will take a lot of time to work on, a lot of things to change, and very strategic. It's like trying to make deep surgery. Instead of that, I would say try acupuncture. Just focusing on those specific things that you think will make a difference for people. And as you were saying before, usually the things that our customers appreciate most about us are not the big things, but those small details, following up on something, just asking them how they are, giving them best practices to take the most out of your service or product, or just smiling and being available anytime they need you. A lot of things that might not be, those huge elements marketing wise, but definitely will make a difference because they are not common. And actually, I have another booklet called 50 Ways to Make Your Customers Fall in Love, so they won't consider anyone else, in the future. And the first one is smile. And people laugh about that because I know, it doesn't sound very strategic, and a lot of research behind that, but definitely those are the small things that we care the most, feeling appreciated, and they're very powerful. And as we were discussing before the interview, affordable. So any small business can do them and really take advantage of that.
Yeah, exactly. And we were talking about how these are not only powerful and free or very low cost often, they're also the big advantage that small businesses have over large companies. A large company can't necessarily go and smile at everyone that's going to pick their product off the shelf, whereas with a small business owner, you really can create that wonderful atmosphere and environment for your clients. And I often talk about the fact that you don't have to shout louder to get more clients, but resonate deeper. And I think how we resonate often, obviously, my background's marketing and communications. So people think it's to do with the messaging. And there is a lot to do with the messaging, but it's also these small things that we do. That smile, that's going to resonate with people. The little things you do that make them feel heard, understood, and valued, as we were saying, this is what creates resonance. And that's what makes people want to work with you instead of anyone else. So, yeah, I mean, they're not to be underestimated at all.
Absolutely. And I think taking care of people, and you said it, it's like one of those superpowers that any small business or independent professional has, which is really knowing their customers by name and taking care of them and, being there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And my daughter used to have dance class from 4 to 5. And I would just go to a coffee shop where her dance class was. There were about maybe 8 coffee shops that I could choose. And I always went to the same one. And the reason was they were the only ones that smiled at me and said, hi. And they remembered my order. They were just really nice. They made you feel welcome. The other ones all ignored me.
And that's exactly the point, Melita. And when you feel treated that way, you forget about the price. I mean, it's not about the price. It's about the meaning. It's about what can you solve and how people feel. So definitely, that's a great strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't even have considered the price of the coffee. Maybe the other ones were cheaper. I didn't even know. It wasn't even on my mind.
And you don't care.
I don't care. They just made us feel great. And when my kid came
Yes.
with us, they made
Yeah.
hot chocolate in a vintage martini glass with
Wow.
a silver tray and little biscuits and squirty cream. The look on my daughter's face when that arrived was priceless. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we've talked about, we don't have to compete on price when we differentiate well and we are valuable in a way that is meaningful for our clients. When it comes to setting the price in the first place, how do we go about finding that right price? So I know we don't want to compete on price, but we still need to price in a way that's profitable, it's fair for the customer, but also fair for us. And my first job, my boss there, I had to do a small amount of sales. And he said, when they ask the price, take the cost, times it by 3, and then tell them that. And then if they say, okay, say it's plus tax, or if they say, how much? Then you say, oh, but the tax is included. And
Okay.
that is the only pricing strategy I've really been taught. And I'm assuming
Yeah.
there's probably better strategies, a better way to think about it. What can you tell us about pricing?
I would say it depends on the value perception, basically. Price is relative to what it means, what people are getting in return. Price is what they pay, but value is what they receive. And when someone considers your price is too high, is because one, they are not your ideal target, they are not your customers, so stop chasing the wrong customers, or they don't understand why, or they don't understand, your entire value proposition. What are they getting in return for their money? So definitely that's the thing. In the end, people do not look for the cheaper option. They are just looking for the better cost benefit relationship. They want to get the most out of their money, but not necessarily the cheapest. And to establish your price, I always think that you need to understand what other options your prospects have, because they will be comparing you with them. What are they offering and what's their price? Not to match their prices, but to really understand where are you compared to them. Because if you provide more value than them, you can have a higher price. If you do not, you need to check that out. So I always take care, never the cost usually, because it's trap. You could be leaving money on the table on one side, but also because you are in the market competing with other options, and you need to be aware of that, and you need to be in your customers' shoes and really seeing what's available and comparing your offer to them. So seeing what are their prices and what are they doing, what are they offering, how far can they go, or how strong is their value proposition compared to yours. That will give you a hint if you should be at the same level or just below them or even above them. That's basically my approach, just being very practical and real, comparing yourself to what else is in the market and how much value you provide.
Yeah. And in that, would you also compare or sort of consider the cost of doing nothing as well? Because they always have the choice not to buy your product and not to buy from any of the other alternatives, but there's always a cost to that as well.
Absolutely.
Is that something you'd bring in?
If that is the type of customer you're approaching, for example, insurance, it's very common that people think they don't need it, right? I speak a lot to insurance agents, and one of the main objections is that one. I don't need it. So then the argument is, what if? you know, the risk that is implicit. What is the cost of not having it? Which is that approach. But in that sense, Melitta, all of your competitors should be addressing the same problem. So you will be on the same boat and no differentiation. So when you focus just only on the general pain that the category you're in is solving, you are saying the same things they are saying. If you are selling insurance, so every insurance agent is telling you that you need to be protected. Nothing new. So point is, what are you going to really, how are you going to position yourself with a product that is somehow a commodity, so people can understand that you can serve them better? I actually met a company that specializes on small businesses insurance, and their key differentiator, and that's the way they communicate it, is that they are more tailored to every specific type of business. Like if you are a life coach, we have the right insurance for life coaches. And it is different because a life coach has different challenges and risks than an accountant. And they get very specific into the details why they can solve your challenges better than any other insurance. So the main product is more or less the same, right? But the way you package it and present it make a difference. So when establishing your price, of course, seeing what's in the market, but also, as you said, what is the risk of not making that decision? But then if they're going to make that decision, not only that they become conscious that they need what you offer, but that they choose you instead of others.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. And obviously, we've got this co-authored book, and you've written a book before, Stop Competing on Price, which is next year. It's going to have its 10th anniversary. Congratulations. And you were telling me that you're in the process of updating that book to put out the new edition for that anniversary. What do you see has changed in the last 10 years around pricing?
I would say many more price oriented companies are in the market than they used to be. First of all, I mean, you have with the rising of so many brands that are challenging, defying established brands at any category that you can imagine: hotels, mobile phones, cars, anything you can imagine. So traditional brands have been challenged by those that at a lower price are offering quite a good experience and quite a lot of value, which is a real challenge because it's easy to justify your price when you have, lower price competitors that are not as good as you. But now the game is changing, and you can see it, products from China or from many other countries that are really making the homework and providing a lot of value in different parts of the world, actually. I think that's one big change, which is customers are more sensitive, I think, to price right now than they used to be because there are many other options. Second, there are so many ways to differentiate, as we were discussing before. When I wrote that book 10 years ago, I just proposed 10 ways to differentiate, right? Like distribution, storytelling, focus on a niche, specialize, customer experience, blah, blah, blah. And now that I've been working with hundreds of companies and I see those small things, not only as a way to differentiate, but looking at, small arguments, let's call it that way, or specific arguments like, we are green, or we take care of our employees, or we are responsible on this, or we recycle if we were talking about, for example, all those social and environmental issues, or the number of SKUs that we handle in our inventory is higher than any other one, or our team is more prepared to solve your needs because we have an average of 15 years of experience compared to our closest competitor. So a lot of things. So I just understood that there are so many ways to differentiate, and not a huge like pioneering arguments, but small things that really matter to those that you are trying to attract. That's the point. Simplicity. I just met another company, insurance company actually, that their main argument is don't be concerned about the fine print. We make things easier. Actually, the name of the company is 3, like the number 3, because their policy is 3 pages. And the way it is written is very understandable. And they use that as a message, as an arrowhead, just to let people know that different from others, you can really understand our policy and you can download it here before you buy from us. So there are so many ways. So I would say one thing has changed, more price sensitive markets and globalization, of course, and internet and all those ways to really get in touch with any other brand you're competing with. Second, I would say that there are so many ways to differentiate, not a small number of them as I used to think. And communication is more important than ever. One of your key topics, which is you might not have a huge differentiator, but if you communicate it better than your competitors, it'll be good. I mean, in the end, I think that the best communication is the one that people understand. Sounds obvious, but it's not always the case.
Yeah. With my first business, I did communication consultancy, and my strapline was whatever your objective, clear communication is the key to success. And I still stand by that. And even more so, particularly since COVID, Everybody's online, everybody's in the same industry. There is so much more competition and they're so much closer. And now we have ChatGPT, their communication is getting more consistent and is better. But I think it's going to come down to these small things, as you say. And when you were talking about that, there's more ways to be differentiated now than ever before. It's the small things that are going to make the biggest difference, I think. And that insurance example was exactly illustrated that it's still insurance, but it's not the product that's differentiated, but the way they're making that simple with their 3-page policies. So I think finding those meaningful differences, I guess, is going to come back to what you were saying before. Have a conversation with your clients, find out what is meaningful for them, where you can realistically make a difference. Understand your value first so you can lean into that and make a difference that other people can't copy or can't copy easily. So are you hopeful that, I know there's a lot of choice and opportunity. Do you think that's a good thing, or do you think this is something that businesses need to think about very carefully and choose their strategy with intention?
Definitely. I think that all the changes we have been facing, it's part of the evolution, I think. If you look back, I don't know, 20 years ago when internet just started, or online marketing, or I think that things like AI, for example, is a layer that is just covering a lot of things on a daily basis. And I think the way we approach our businesses and the way we approach our strategy, we now have more tools, more opportunities to really make a difference. Because I think it's when online marketing just became popular, that in my opinion, it was the democratization of marketing strategies. Because before that, you were not able as a small business to really create a community. You know, now you have an email list, now you have your social networks, now you can be heard without the investments that you needed in the past, because only the big brands were able to really communicate, make advertising, a lot of things. So I think that the new things that we are facing are just opportunities and new tools, just to grab them and use them wisely, and just being more productive, or being more clear in your communication and having more options, and really taking advantage of that. I think it's not something to be afraid of, but something to embrace and to really, use them. They are just tools that you can keep moving forward. But in the end, never forgetting that it's about human connection. Independently of the tools you use or the media you use, it's about really connecting to people, to what matter to them most, even if they are buying online or at your e-commerce or whatever the interaction they have. Even if you are not talking to them, written words say a lot. And the way we express our brand, our positioning, that we care for our customers, it'll make a difference, definitely.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's all opportunities. And if we remember that it is that personal interaction that we're having, it's a relationship with one person at a time that we're building, even if we are using these sort of mass media tools, it's still that personal connection that counts. And I think going forward, with the opportunities that things like AI present us with, it's even more important to be differentiated and to lean into your value, your skills, the way that you want to serve people and make a difference. And I think that's going to be the important things, coming back to small things again, going forward, that are going to really make the difference. So, and I think that's, again, a big opportunity for small business owners, that we can be more connected to our clients and that experience and difference we want to make for them. So, yeah, I'm excited and hopeful. Yeah.
Good.
I want to come back to one other big question, and it's where you started the conversation, and it's this pressure to discount. I always think it's a bit funny when you have a small business and if you are going to work with friends, for example, they expect a discount, and you kind of think, hold on a minute, if you bought this from anyone else, you wouldn't be asking for a discount. You should be paying me more because I'm a friend. Not the other way around.
I agree. I agree.
I think
Actually, yeah.
I think this whole idea of discounting, it's all a bit backwards. But are there any times when we should be giving a discount, or it could be a good strategy?
Definitely. I'm not against discounting. I'm against discounting just for the sake of it.
Mhm.
Just link the discount to something that you can then in the future just take that out and the discount will disappear. For example, you can give a discount if you buy more volume, more sessions, or if you give me a referral, or because if you give me a testimonial, or if I can build a case study with you. Always give a reason why you are discounting, because otherwise they will think that you were charging more than it needed to be and that you were only trying to check if they will pay that price. But discounting is a tool you can use to help the customer make a decision faster, but always link it to something that you are getting in return. Because in that way, you will maintain the perception of value. So in other words, I'm giving you this, but I'm also getting this back. So this is, something for you, something for me. I think that one of the things that we should not do is just because the client or the customer is pushing for that, just because of the pressure. Because I always say, every time you give a concession to a client that is pushing you so hard on that, you are hurting your good customers that are not asking for discounts and are paying full price because they don't pressure on that. So you must be consistent. So in general terms, I would say, of course, discounting is part of the commercial activity. Thing is, make it strategic, make it, just related to something, and let the customer understand that they are not getting a discount because they are tough negotiators, but because you want something in return because of that, because you value.
Yeah, yeah, it all comes down to that value balance. Yeah, and I think it's a red flag. If people are really pushing and negotiating because they don't see the value, often that's because they're not an ideal client and they're just going to be a nightmare. But I like that point that, and I think it's a good one to keep in mind that in giving discounts, we're actually hurting our good clients.
Yeah, another way to see at that, Melitta, is just if you need to sell at lower prices, you don't necessarily need to discount, but you can create a less robust option, which is an alternative, and many companies do, which is having three different price options like good, better, and best, for example. Or, okay, I understand that you cannot pay 100, but I have an option for 70. Do not have this and this. You might not need them at all. So it, could be more affordable, but you are not discounting. You're just offering a less robust option that could be, a good fit for your prospect.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to use that when I was consulting, and sometimes they would say, "Is this your best price?" It's like, "Yeah, it's the best price." And they're like, "Could you do it at this price?" Well, no, this is my best price, but we can take something out. Which of these aspects of what I'm presenting in the proposal don't you need? And they're like, "Oh no, we need all of it." It's like, okay, that's my best price.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
you
And
do that, it's like, yeah, we can reduce the price, but let's reduce the offer. They're no. um, and so yeah, it always comes back to that. But it's nice to have that option and to instead of giving the discount, keep that value, as you say, the proposition in balance as well. Yeah.
but you're right, Melita, because actually I think that in many businesses, lower priced options are just doing that, just taking out a few things so they can offer a lower price. And I have found that that option for certain type of customers is good enough. So if you're a hotel and if you want to have, a cheaper price per night, you can take out a lot of amenities, or you can have a smaller room, or you don't have an iron within your room, but you can ask for it if you call reception, the front desk. So those elements that might not be strictly necessary for the clients could be an option just to take them out, because sometimes instead of adding value, we are just adding cost. So it's not a value added, but a cost added feature. And that's another way. And sometimes we just fall on that in order to justify our price, we are just adding and adding things that sometimes are not relevant for people. And that's when lower price brands just enter the market and gain customers because they are not offering things that people don't care much.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we were talking about like that value perception and often, people are saying, just stuff more value into your programs or your offer. And so you're justifying that higher price. But then if those things aren't what people want and don't add value and don't help people get the result they're looking for, then yeah, that's not necessarily the right strategy either. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, David, thank you so much. So much food for thought. Obviously, we have the Connect, Lead, Succeed book where they can get your entire talk on this topic, which I would highly recommend. It's brilliant. And then, of course, the book, Stop Competing on Price, and it's the small things where they get more of your strategy as well. So I'd recommend everyone go and grab yourself a copy of those. But if people want to learn more about you and to connect with you, where's the best place for them to go?
I would say my website is davidgomez.co. There you can find a lot of information, yes.
Perfect. Well, we'll put all the links in the show notes as well. David, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a really interesting discussion.
Thank you, Melitta. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today. I hope you have enjoyed this conversation with David Gómez as much as I have. I loved his reminder that we don't need to compete on price when we can compete on value and make that value clear. And that often our real differentiation lies not necessarily in what we sell, but in the small things, those thoughtful touches and meaningful experiences that make clients feel truly seen and valued. And talking of small things, remember to join Momentum Month. You'll find out all the details and how to join at melittacampbell.com/momentum. As I said, it's all about the small things that build that momentum, but it has to be the right small things. And they have to be done consistently, and it has to be done in a way that feels aligned and right for you. So that is everything we're going to cover in Momentum Month, so you can have your best month in your business and start to learn what it really takes for you to build success consistently. Again, you'll find all the details at melittacampbell.com/momentum. Meantime, I've been Melitta Campbell, your business coach and value whisperer, and I look forward to seeing you again next Wednesday. Bye.